Scrapers, please forgive me. I didn't mean a word I said.
This is Architecture 360 on Rivet. I'm Lee Bay. Last time on the show, Bonnie McDonald, president and CEO of Landmarks Illinois, joined us to talk about her group's most endangered sites list. That discussion continues this week. We'll cover broader issues related to architectural preservation and urban planning. And Bonnie also gives us a glimpse of the future, the near future, of the preservation movement. Bonnie, welcome back.
Thank you, Lee. It's great to be back and to continue what is becoming a very robust discussion about the role of people and places in Chicago and Illinois.
One of the things we didn't get a chance to delve into last week, but is very much in the now and future of architectural preservation, is the need to look at mid-century modern buildings and homes, right? They get a thematic listing on this year's list, but as you made the list, is there one or two that's really worth paying special attention to?
One of the properties that we list, I encourage you to go look at.
Oh, that thing is beautiful. It's on Prospect,
yes,
is it? And it is, I mean, if you guys haven't seen the images of this, there'll be a link that can get you there in this story. This house made me want to take a trip the day I saw it.
That is right. In fact, the great story about this is, I think, 222 Prospect Avenue in Danville, is that the realtor listed it and a woman called and wanted to buy it immediately, but she thought it was in Danville, California. Because it's so incredible and unique. It's $109,000 to buy this really intact mid-century modern house. And with the rise of Mad Men as an entire aesthetic in our culture, we are seeing, especially the people in their 20s, people in their 30s, appreciating Danish modernism, appreciating the Scandinavian design, and mid-century modern in the United States. But these houses may still be out of their price range. So it is a complex problem, and our goal is to raise awareness for the fact that mid-century modern has an important place in the built resources, and when we lose that, we lose part of our culture.
It really would be a gap missing out of our sort of architectural story, wouldn't it? Because these houses have unique looks, as many of us know, but often behind the walls they did interesting things structurally. I mean, the way they how they held themselves together to promote open floor plans, for instance, or the materials that were used were really cutting edge for the time. And so it's almost like, ripping out a part of an important story, and you wonder, how do we get from here to here? Well, this is the chapter that would have told you, and right now this chapter is endangered.
That's absolutely true, Lee. They were experimenting with unique materials at the time. Using plastics in homes was quite revolutionary. And you think of I think the heritage of our World's Fairs, as we talk about the Laredo Taft sculpture that was part of our World's Fair in Jackson Park. These homes were tested at many World's Fairs, and millions of people would see these designs and then articulate them in their local communities. They're still original, they're still architect designed, but they influenced an entire era of design after them, like the ranch house, for example. If you've lived in a ranch house, you are the legacy of this mid-century modern architect designed.
But when you break it down, what can be done to preserve these places?
It's the right buyer that needs to come along. And when I say the term right, what I mean is someone who understands the design aesthetic, who appreciates that aesthetic, and recognizes that they're stewards. I mean, we are the stewards of this for the future, for the next owner coming along. And the best way to be a steward is to ensure that it is protected locally. What we're missing in many of our North Shore environments are strong local preservation ordinances. Chicago, of course, is a very strong ordinance where when it's a local landmark, it receives a review by the Landmarks Commission here. Many North Shore communities are missing either an ordinance or an ordinance that has that demolition permit review. So our push here is to consider the impact of this on the built resource, the built environment, and then to try to convince the community that landmarking is a good option especially when we can engage the owner in a conversation about being a steward of that property.
I get the impression that something interesting is happening out there, that the preservation movements and other movements like the locally grown food movement, the movement to create local arts and culture venues, and all of these things are beginning to knit together, and that people who are concerned about preservation of a building and the people who are concerned about the future use and function of that building are no longer working as much in silos.
Absolutely. The future of our movement, as well as many others, will be partnership. I think as we look at the economic change that may happen in the nation, and especially that's happening in local governments, we have to leverage the experience and the capacity of each other. So right now we're doing a project, actually, if I can talk about, I think one of the projects I'm most excited about at Landmarks right now is working on some of the closed Chicago schools. So some of the 50 closed schools still have wonderful assets in them in their community kitchens. So we're doing a survey right now of 5 closed CPS schools to look at their community value for their commercial kitchens, not just the building and the architecture, but how does it help the community to thrive? So the commercial kitchens will allow us to partner with the local foods movement and local food entrepreneurs in those districts, in those neighborhoods, and keep the building open as an asset for them. So that's one way we're partnering with local foods. Arts, I think in your work you have seen at the University of Chicago, the Arts Incubator is such a vital way that art is helping place. That place is going to impact the lives of people around the Washington Park Arts Incubator. And when you think about what connects us all, it's things like food, like home, like work, faith, transit, and the more we look at the impact of the built environment around the positive connections between what we all experience in a common way, I think we can build value for our existing environment, our existing built resources.
Bonnie McDonald, President and CEO of Landmarks Illinois. We are out of time again. But the good news is we made a pact to keep this conversation going, so you'll be back. But thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Lee.
And thank you for listening to Architecture 360. Follow me on Twitter at Lee Bay, that's Leebey, and on Facebook at Lee Bay's Chicago. Join me next time.